Ideen is safe and the Verdanian threat's been handled. Sigurd's been assigned to govern Verdane in the meantime, but just when you might think he has time to go honeymooning with Deirdre, the nation of Augustria begins to stir up trouble. Seems they aren't too fond of how Grandvale's expanding towards their land. And well, fair enough. King Imca was one of the few men of power ushering for peace with Grandvale. But he's passed away just recently, leaving his son Chagall to rule Agustria, and god damn it, look at this guy. You just know he's gonna cause trouble. Of course, his first call to action: invade Verdane. The war in Izok is still going strong, so don't expect any reinforcements here. We're given no choice but to fight this one alone. Thankfully, we know Eldigan is a man of reason. He wants this war no more than we do. He travels to the capital, Augusti, leaving his sister lachesis to guard Nordion. Lachesis urges him not to go. Apparently, the gossip around the streets is that Chagall is the one who killed his own father. Lachesis is a bit of a hothead, but she seems to be the smarter between the two. But Eldigan cares not for the gossip about his lovely new king. Eldigan's brilliant plan here is to tell Chagall to stop. Realistically speaking, you can't be too honest with dumb people in power. You have to find ways to manipulate them into working for you. But that's really mean, and this is one of Sigurd's best friends, so you know it's not about that. Of course, Chagall has a massive stick up his ass about his authority being undermined. And there's definitely some daddy issues here. King Imca probably loved Eldigan more than he loved his own son. I mean, how could you? For this, he throws Eldigan into the dungeon. Bold move, seeing as he's the strongest man you've got here. But hey, you do you. He sends his men to capture Nordion, to use as a front against Grandvale. Oh god. Yeah, of course it's Manfroy. The Lopter cult's main strategy is to take advantage of the insecurities of the most powerful men in Yggdrasil, like Chagall's daddy issues and erectile dysfunction. Manfroy is the one who pushed him to kill his father, and fight Grandvale. With the war in Izok occupying the bulk of Grandvale's forces, this is probably the best opportunity Chagall will get in his lifetime to seize power in Yggdrasil. And Manfroy appeals heavily to this. See, Eldigan, that's how you manipulate a king. Well, with Eldigan out of the picture, Nordion will be forced to fight against Hairhine again. Elliot's looking for a round 2. I guess Elliot's always had a thing for lachesis. Is that what the whole rivalry with Eldigan's about? Of course though, lachesis hates the guy. She wants someone more noble and selfless, like her brother Eldigan. But not Eldigan himself, god forbid, don't be gross. Unfortunately, the rest of the Cross Knights were sent north to Silvale, so these 3 identical triplets are all that's left to protect Nordion. They must be the real cream of the crap. I'm talking some real doo-doo knights here. Cause I mean, that's usually what I leave to protect my castles. Lachesis sends word to Sigurd, and he rushes in to help. He doesn't want to fight Augustria, but they all made that vow together. He can't just sit by and watch his buddy's sister die. Deirdre insists that she comes along with us in this battle. Sigurd is reluctant, but Deirdre fears that they may never see each other again if they part. So he lets her stay by her side. Kinda ominous, but hey, it's a war, fair enough. Anyways, it's the start of a new chapter, so let's get some accounting done. I let Ideen have all that money that Dew got from last chapter. She's our only unit that has no real means of getting money, since she can't use the arena without a weapon. This'll let her repair all of her staves, and buy the silent staff from Deirdre. I just feel like she'll make better use of it down the line. Go through the arena with everyone too, get that fun little ritual done. And, yeah, I guess the last fighter in the arena here is a guy named Holland. I guess the guy's been fighting for money his whole life, and he's never been beaten here before, so he's impressed. I guess he just sees our conviction as inspired to join up. Okay. Holland is pretty similar to Ira. He's a kinda basic sword fighter, but he's pretty beefy. He's a bit tankier than Ira, but he shares her minor ode to Holy Blood. I guess he's from Izok. Maybe some noble's bastard or runaway son? I don't know. After recruiting him, we don't really hear any more from him. At least not in this playthrough. He has Luna, which will randomly allow an attack to ignore enemy defense based on his skill. Not generally as flashy or as strong as Astra, but definitely not bad either. All in all, a solid new addition to the team, but nothing groundbreaking. We'll buy him the steel blade at the shop. But with the arena cleared out and our weapons repaired, we can head out now. Ethlyn and her new sister-in-law Deirdre can check up on each other. Ethlyn says Sigurd's never been happier since meeting her, and Deirdre reaffirms as long as they're together, they'll have nothing to fear. Aww. And Deirdre has a gift for her, a light brand. What a sweetheart, I love her. The light brand is basically Ethlyn's signature weapon. Up close it's a standard physical sword, somewhere between a steel and silver sword. Not bad. But from a space away, it casts light magic, allowing Ethlyn to take better advantage of her magic stat, and deal better damage to armored enemies, while also being able to attack and counter from a distance. Very nice. Oh, and believe it or not, we're actually gonna need Arden this chapter. Come on, buddy, let's go for a walk. So yeah, this time we can have Midir watch the castle for us instead. If you've played other FE games, and you're wondering 3 chapters in now how many units we're allowed to deploy, the answer is, as many as I goddamn want. Cool thing about this game is that you can and probably should use everyone. Even if some units are worse than others, it doesn't hurt to have them around, aside from the pain of moving them all around. Plus, since EXP is part of your endgame rank, it's probably best to use everyone you can, if you care about that kind of stuff. Elliot starts marching the Incel army onto Nordion. Ugh. The rest of Hairhind forms a defensive line of Armor Knights and long-range Ballista for when Elliot inevitably kicks the bucket. Just great. Macbeth at Castle Anthony sees the battle going down, and decides to take advantage of the chaos. He sends his hired thugs to raid the villages. He knows Chagall is too incompetent to do anything about it. Yeah, looks like barbarism from the men in power isn't just a Verdane thing. Mackenly decides to just sit back and watch and twiddle their fingers evilly. God, is everyone in Agustria just a noble douchebag? Anyways, we gotta start our march to Nordion. FE4 loves this kind of storytelling. They unleash a threat on that distant ally, while you have to trek for a few turns of nothing to get to the action. It's not exactly thrilling, but I guess I can appreciate what it does for the scale of the world, and it's meant to build some tension while revealing some enemy scheming. So yeah, I guess you could say that FE4 has been doing those shitty forced walk and talk sections way before everyone else got to them. They were ahead of the curve. Anyways, I don't trust those weird triplets, so we'd better rush Sigurd into here and talk to lachesis. All of Agustria has turned against them, but luckily King Asmer knew of Inkip's assassination, and approved us to fight. We have to rescue Eldigan for sure. If anyone will be able to salvage peace out of this, it'll be him. We get to recruit lachesis here too. Her class is Princess, which is sorta just like Ethlyn's Troubadour class, but not mounted. Considering Ethlyn's movement is one of her greatest boons, this isn't exactly great for lachesis. Her only skill is Charm, which is just a support skill, giving +10 accuracy and avoid to all units within 3 spaces of her. So she's not a good fighter at all on her own. If you want to use her, she really requires some babying. But hey, I won't turn down another healer. She at least has minor Hazul Holy Blood, so her sword weapon rank is high enough to use some decent swords. Lex's beautiful new Brave Axe will really come in handy here. A lot of Lance Knights. I'll be able to run around most of them, which is a huge step up from what he used to be doing. Finn can kill Elliot and get his Silver Lance here. Unfortunately, his weapon rank isn't high enough to use it yet. But still, exciting! Unfortunately, this is where you'll really feel the crunch on your unmounted units. They fall so behind on this chapter if you're trying to play efficient. Like, Jesus, look at this. Well, regardless, we head north to tackle that big defensive front. Watch out for the Ballista. They're not actually a huge threat, but they have some long range and can be a bit of a problem for your weaker units. Also, I guess I don't know what I expected, but those 3 Nordian knights will satellite around lachesis to protect her for the rest of the chapter. It makes sense, but god is it annoying. They'll attack any enemy in their range and try to jack your EXP, and just generally, they're gonna get in your way. It's a shame if you're trying to use lachesis, because you'll have to keep her out of battles for this chapter almost entirely. There's also a reward for keeping them all alive at the end of the chapter, which is easier said than done. These guys are suicidal.
Adios, dingus.
It's not an essential reward or anything, but I'd be lying if I tried to tell you it's not nice to have. Anyways, those bandits from Anthony have finally reached the villages. Great, just another goal to contend with, huh? Lachesis can have a conversation with Du, where he'll give her a thief sword. It's a sword that'll steal all of your opponent's money when you hit them with it. It's neat, but I always kind of forget about it. I don't know. Anyways, this conversation also gets Du and lachesis some love points, but I'm not trying to pair them, so let's give these two some space. These Hairhind armor knights can take some hits. No one's really one-rounding anyone here. But slowly and surely, we'll make it through. Just get those loser cross knights out of my way. Luckily, this gives our foot soldiers a little bit of time to catch up. So, you know, I get to see Ira again. Lex gets the kill on Philip here and gets the return ring. It's a pretty straightforward item. You can just use it to return to the chapter's home castle. Not generally all that useful of an item, but I'll actually get some use out of it this chapter. You know, those ballista looked kind of threatening, but man, they really were only a minor nuisance. Oh yeah, and don't forget Arden. Keep on trucking, little buddy! Anyways, with that, we've smashed through Hairhind's front line, and we can move on to their home castle. I'd say Sigurd and Lex can take care of this on their own, so we can start sending everyone else north. Sigurd gets the kill on Bordeaux, who will drop the barrier ring, which grants +5 magic resistance. Considering Sigurd's always jumping headfirst into trouble, it's probably not a bad thing to have. We seize Hairhind, which eliminates the immediate threat to Granvale. However, Anthony is still sicking its men on the locals, and Eldigan's still imprisoned in Augusti, so we have no choice but to continue the fight. Chagall catches Macbeth's hand in the proverbial cookie jar and gives him a little slap on the wrist for not fighting by Hairhind. Hey, good to know. Ignoring your allies so you can hire bandits to steal from your own people? Not as big of a crime as, trying to advise the king, I guess. Macbeth's got a whole mercenary squad in his corner to fight back against us. The two local tough guys and leaders of these mercenaries, Waltz and Beowulf, are having some second thoughts about the job. They figure they'll get no support from Macbeth's soldiers, plus those raids are bound to give off the wrong impression. Beowulf's thinking about quitting on the spot. But actually, Waltz is incredibly supportive. If he wants to quit and find a better gig, he's all for it. Though they hope they won't have to kill each other down the line. Gotta love a pair of positive, sensitive, tough guys, huh? Wait a second, I just realized something. Macbeth? Beowulf? Waltz? There's a mercenary later named Jacobin? These mercs are all fucking theater kids! I have no idea what I'm talking about. They begin their offensive towards Hairhind. We haven't had any means of getting into these villages all chapter, but they're still in danger. Luckily, Lewin, a bard from one of these villages, catches onto the ruckus and wonders why Agustria is not doing anything about it. Little does he know, they are Agustria. He's way too sick of this bullshit civil war and decides to take matters into his own hands. He must be like an infamous local blowhard or something though, because this villager calls him a wise guy and fucking shit talks him into oblivion. It's pretty funny. Lewin's favorite side hoe and spunky little dancer girl, Sylvia, shows up too, mostly to shit talk him for giving her a one-night stand. Man, the guy just can't catch a break, huh? Guess he laid the flirt on a little too hard. Maybe said a few too many babe alerts to Sylvia's face, so she thought he was committing, but clearly the guy's having none of it. Trust me, if anyone in this game is the kind of guy to say babe alert unironically, it's Lewin here. I love him. After some crocodile tears, though, he lets her tag along. Though he warns her, it's gonna be dangerous. Hey, maybe Lewin's not a man whore, maybe he just wanted to keep her safe. But she promises that she likes it rough. Okay. Anyways, though, they're immediately usable. No recruitment process necessary here. So they can start taking down these bandits immediately. Nice. I was not looking forward to having to trek through this forest. Lewin's class is Bard, but basically he's a wind mage. He has Adept and Critical. Unlike Quan, Lewin actually makes pretty good use of Adept. He actually has a great speed stat, and wind magic is the lightest weapon in the game, so Lewin has almost twice the chance of doubling, plus a 12% critical chance. And trust me, it's only gonna get better. Though it's still not as reliable as it would be if you just had Pursuit. Sylvia's a dancer. She has Adept and Miracle, which will significantly increase her dodge rate when her HP is under 10. Finn also has this skill. I forgot to mention it last time. But don't let the sword fool you, it's just for show. She's really not a combat unit. Her real function lies in her third skill, Dance. Basically, she can refresh any units around her, allowing them to move again. Usually in the series, dancers can only refresh 1 unit per turn, but she can do up to 4. This is going to be very useful, especially when it comes to our unmounted units, but also for letting Lewin take down some of these bandits faster. They've already gotten a head start on these villages, so I'll definitely take it. Well, regardless, we should probably begin our march towards Anthony, but let's not forget to repair our silver sword. It's been putting in some work. Checking out Waltz, it seems like he drops a Paragon band. This will double EXP for whoever's holding it, so that's gonna be pretty useful. Noted. Finn and Quan have a new conversation now. Quan's a bit worried. Agustria has been putting up more of a fight than Verdane, so he's got a little present for Finn. It's a Brave Lance. Oh yeah, baby. Who needs that dumb Silver Lance now? Quan really loves Finn, man. It's so wholesome. He's like a son to him. And let me tell you, getting a good new weapon for someone really starts to feel like character development. Generally, in other FE games, when you get a new weapon, it's cool, but it's a powerful, limited new resource. Which means for my cheap ass, it probably won't be getting used much. So usually, this kind of feeling of gameplay character development is generally reserved when a unit classes up. And you know, maybe it's the restrictive inventory system that forces you to spend money if you want to move items from person to person. Maybe it's the emotional attachment from the conversations you get them from, and it's definitely the repair system that lets you keep weapons until the end of the game. But it really does feel like some of these normal-ass weapons are actually the signature weapons for their respective units. Like, it may be a symbol of his loyalty to the king, but there's really nothing stopping you from pawning Sigurd's Silversword to Ethlin or lachesis, or selling Ethlin's Lightbrand to Ira, or hell, even Finn's Brave Lance back to Quan, or any other lance user we may encounter in the future. And that's great that the option's there, but to me, it just feels kinda dirty. These were gifts explicitly for them, so I can't help but see them as extensions of them as characters. Though, if a weapon really is screaming out for another's hands, don't let me and my sentimentality stop you. Anyways, the Brave Axe did wonders for Lex, and he doesn't even have Pursuit, so you know it's gonna turn Finn into a total beast. From here on out, he'll really just go full brute force and keep poking you until you die. It's great. Whoa. Flying. Babe alert. Seems like these Celestia and Pegasus Knights are landing in Augusti. They're looking for their prince. Prince... Lewin. Did you not even bother using an alias, you bozo? Anyways, we'll worry about them later. We have Macbeth's goons to contend with right now. This fight's a little bit prickly. Definitely a real FE4 moment. They love just kind of throwing walls of enemies at you and saying, have fun! Though it's admittedly kind of cool seeing enemies move en masse in formation. Definitely gives a sense that these guys are a little more well-trained than the guys we fought in Verdane. You'll really want to keep Lachesis and her stupid knights out of this one if you want them to live. I'll tell you that right now. In the midst of this total bloodbath, Lex hits level 20. We'll find out what this means in a bit, but if you've played other FE games and think that's the max level, not quite, but you'll see.
Hey, I work hard at it!
Beowulf seems to have put in his good old-fashioned mercenary 2-week notice, and is in the middle of writing a resume. So you figure, we can probably recruit him. This one takes me a few tries. I try to lure him out with Janka, a fresh, juicy piece of meat that can't counterattack at close range. Unfortunately, his buddies get to him first and clog things up, so he aims for Holland instead and, well, dies. After some trial and error, though, we actually managed to lure him out. You can actually recruit him with anyone as long as they can dish out the cash. 10,000 gold, and he's yours. Man, you were, not getting paid too well, were you? Seeing as these guys are all sword users, Quan's actually pretty good for luring them out. Finn would do better at this point at actually killing them, but it just leaves him open for more attacks, so Quan's single hits will actually work better here. Just watch out for Waltz. Beowulf is a pretty solid addition to the team. He's got Pursuit, a Cost, a Horse, and some well-balanced stats. Can't really ask for much more. He and Waltz can have their little showdown. Good old-fashioned manager versus ex-employee. God, I wish that was me. Well, it's a bit anticlimactic, but the deed is done. I guess Beowulf is getting the Paragon Ring. He's already pretty high leveled, so I'm not sure that he really needs it. I'd kinda like it on Lachesis, but seeing as her Cross Knight Goon Squad is gonna keep her out of this battle, maybe it's best that she doesn't get it. I say leave the battling to the big boys and girls for now. Just have Lachesis on minor healing duty this chapter if she needs the XP. I don't know, whatever. I can live with this arrangement. But speaking of incredibly important skill rings... That's right. Arden now has the Pursuit Ring. This is a game changer. It grants the most important skill in the game, Pursuit, to any unit who holds it. Arden finally has his chance to be useful to us. Because let me tell you, Athlon could really use Pursuit. She'll make great use of this. Lewin, or should I say, Prince Lewin, can finally take out this last bandit. Well, that's one more nuisance out of the way. Maybe you can start heading out to meet our main army. After clearing out the rest of these mercenaries, I want to start regrouping south towards the center of the map. You know we'll have to deal with Mackenly later anyways, so we'd better just leave the essentials to take Anthony. Plus, I want to start getting Lachesis and Beowulf near each other for a conversation. Macbeth can take some hits, but after some beatings, Ira takes him down and gets a shield ring for her trouble. When we take Anthony, our favorite unnamed envoy drops by to check up on us and deliver a message. Unfortunately, it seems like it's finally come out that we've been harboring Isaac's prince. Duke Langbolt and Reptor have been spreading a nasty rumor around Granvale's courts. They say that Sigurd, with the foreign aid of Quan and Eldigan, is conspiring against the crown. Which is ridiculous. I mean, come on, Sigurd is as loyal as it gets. He's not even smart enough to overthrow a country. Well, not on purpose anyways. Though, considering it's from the guys who want our father out of power, I guess the mudslinging shouldn't be surprising. Good news is, though, apparently the war in Isaac is almost over, meaning Kurth and Byron should be able to return soon. Turns out Prince Kurth is still unmarried, so people were a little bit worried that he would just, I don't know, die in the war or something, which would end the Belhalla royal lineage. I guess they tried hooking him up with some chicks, but he still hung up on an old flame. See, 20 years ago, Prince Kurth. Wait a second. How old is Prince Kurth anyway? He looks like he's supposed to be around Sigurd's age, but I don't know, he's got like eye bags, maybe not? I don't know. Well, he doesn't have any official art to reference anyways, so doesn't matter. Well, anyways, yeah, 20 years ago, I guess our beloved prince had an affair with the Duchess of Veltomer. In other words, Arvis's mother. Duke Victor's wife grew weary of all his mistresses, so she ended up finding love in Prince Kurth. This led to Victor denouncing the two and killing himself in a probably drunken rage. And well, it must have been her last straw for the royal drama, because after that, she left Granvale and was never seen again. Her name was Sigyn. Wait, Sigyn? Oh shit. Well, that certainly explains Deirdre's Major Naga Holy Blood. She's technically part of the Granvale royal family. Quite an important woman we've accidentally married. So Arvis and Deirdre share a mother. And the son that Manfroy was searching for in Belhalla is Arvis. Of course, Sigurd is none the wiser to any of this. He's just like, damn, that's the saddest story I've ever heard. And then continues his conquest of Augustria. Funny thing is, if he visited the village last chapter telling us about Sigyn, he'd have all the information necessary to put this together for himself. He just doesn't. Okay, well I can't totally blame him. There's a lot of names to keep track of in this game. But like, would it kill you to remember your mother-in-law's name? So Arvis is Sigurd's half-brother-in-law, huh? Well, that ought to make for an awkward family reunion. Oh yeah, though, remember that Pegasus girl who was looking for Lewin? Her name's Erin, and yeah, now that we've taken Anthony, Chagall's manipulating her into fighting for him. His explanation is simple. We've kidnapped Prince Lewin, and we're gonna execute him. Beautiful. He deploys his armies from the capital in Mackenly, and they immediately begin their march on us. Before we really start this battle though, we've got some prep work to do. First off, Lex is at level 20 now, so I want him back at our home base. Luckily, he just got that return ring earlier, which will let him do just that. Lewin manages to catch up with Sigurd. They recognize each other. Sigurd knows him from the local hearsay and thanks him for saving those villages. And Lewin knows him too, as the guy who loves war. Got him. Sigurd is pretty confused by this. He hates war as much as anyone. But for what it's worth, we did just topple Verdane last chapter. and we're currently in the process of toppling Augustria. So, you know, fair enough, I guess. Lewin rips into him and tells him to pull out his troops if he actually feels so bad about it. And oh my god, it's so funny. Sigurd's just like, without a hint of irony. Oh, I guess you're right. I'll start retreating and negotiating peace. It was already on my mind and you just convinced me. Thank you, Lewin. Turns out Lewin was kinda just fucking with him though, because he actually thinks that's a really bad and dumb idea. No way Chagall's listening to reason. Lewin laughs in his face, but he can't help but like Sigurd. And man, I feel it, buddy. He offers to help us kill the rest of these rich assholes. So I'll gladly accept the aid of this completely unmysterious, hyper-ordinary bard. Getting back to that talk with lachesis, it seems like Beowulf knows Eldigan from back in the day. They don't really elaborate on how though. Maybe he used to be a cross knight and became disillusioned with knighthood. Or maybe he was just hired by another noble and they met in passing and became sparring buddies. Who knows? One way or another, he's worried for lachesis, but his concern only draws her iconic verbal ire for men that aren't her brother. But after she apologizes, he offers to train her a bit, so she'll be less of a burden on the battlefield, granting her 2 strength, 2 skill, and 1 defense. Nice. This conversation gives 100 love points between Beowulf and lachesis. But this isn't the pairing I'm going for, so... Wait. No, actually for once it is. Guess I might as well finally use this opportunity to talk about...
love.
FE4 is the first game in the series to have real romance mechanics, where you can actually, like, choose the pairings. Sigurd and Deirdre, Quan and Ethlin, these are mandatory romances that we have no control over. However, any other male and female in our army can be paired together romantically through the power of math. And yeah, maybe it goes without saying, but there's no gay marriage options. Sorry. Look, it was 1996, okay? Gay people weren't really invented until the 2000s, but we can at least just pretend that Lex and Azelle are raging bisexuals. It's really funny. Anyways though, when 2 units love each other very much, and they reach 500 love points with each other, they become married. Just like in real life. Every pairing in the game has its own base starting love level. I'd say the average is 50, but depending on certain factors it'll vary. Characters who join you later will generally have higher love bases and growths, since they just have less time to fall in love. Just for gameplay balance. Though they'll also account for pre-existing feelings. For example, Jamka, Azelle, and Midir all come with higher love bases with Ideen than with other girls. Sylvia likes Lewin, so she has a high love base with him, and 0 with almost every other male. And Ira has like 0 base love with most men, because of her generally standoffish personality and distrust towards Grandvale. Very cute stuff. Characters will also develop 2 love points with all of their pairings every turn by default. Though again, there are exceptions to that number for balancing reasons. The big thing is that standing directly next to another unit will increase their turn-to-turn love growths by 5. There's also a weird jealousy system here you can use where you can steal love growths from other units based on a priority scale, but it's a little janky. Like, it almost feels like an unintentional mechanic, because that priority scale will change if you've reset your game at least once since starting it? It's weird. I don't trust any mechanic whose numerical values change on how many times you've reset the game, but it's really not necessary, so I wouldn't worry about it. Love growths will continue to accrue until the 50th turn of any chapter, which generally gives you a solid amount of time to hit the pairings you want. Though, you'll have to be smart about it if you want to be efficient with your turn count. Some pairings will be easier than others, but just keep in mind, if you pair an unmounted unit and a mounted one, you'll just have to accept for a while that they're going to slow each other down. Anyways though, lachesis has 50 base love with every male. This conversation gives her and Beowulf 100 love points, so they need 350 more to get married. Their love growth is 2, and standing next to each other adds 5 per turn, so they have to stand next to each other for 50 turns total to fall in love. Not too bad. Sometimes characters can end up falling in love on complete accident if you aren't thinking too hard about it, especially if you're taking the game kinda slow. So a love growth system makes it feel like there's constant love triangles and rivalries, even though they'll all likely never speak to each other. And I think that's pretty cool. I wonder if that's a feeling that can be captured well in a remake, with more definition. Hate to go on another tangent here, but this is a short one. You might notice that I say lachesis instead of this translation's lachesis. It just doesn't feel natural to me. Admittedly, this version's translation is slightly outdated, I think there's been an update that gets all the localized names to date, but for the most part, the names in this translation are the ones that I'm most familiar and comfortable with. Though, sometimes I'll still slip up and use older translation names like Levin or Fury, especially when I'm talking to my girlfriend, because she played like the pre-Project Naga translation. Anyways, with that explanation out of the way, oh yeah, Lex. He's at our home base and he's level 20, which means he can class up. It's gonna be our first time seeing this. Going from Axe Knight to Great Knight, he sees a huge boost in his strength and defense. Sweet. If you've played other FE games, you may notice that his level is still 20 and hasn't been reset. Every unit's max level is 30 in this game, regardless of whether you're classed up or not. Your growth rates won't change on classing up either, so if you're a min-maxer who's worried about classing up either too soon or too late, I wouldn't stress about it. Whenever it happens to happen, is a good enough time. Seems like that Celestia and Pegasus squadron's heading straight for our home castle, weapons in hand. So I send their beloved Prince Lewin back there with Ethlin, just to clear up this obvious misunderstanding. Bows may do bonus damage to flying enemies, but Madir definitely won't be able to handle them alone. Gives Lewin a chance to clear out the arena too. Man, you'll just have to take my word for it for now that Sylvia's dancing is really effective, cause damn, she really does have a movement flaw in this chapter. Ah well, either way, we gotta start forming up to take on these knights. Oh, god damn it. Yeah, I probably should have moved lachesis further down. Her stupid cross knights are getting involved. This is really the worst place for it too. Not only are they at risk, but they really clog up this canyon. God, they're the worst. I end up having to reload to avoid a complete, unmitigated disaster. But I set up a better barricade this time. I also started moving Dew up towards us. I have a bit of a plan for him this chapter. Watch out for the ballista they have mounted on this cliff though. I guess. They'll at least try to do some long distance chip damage to us while we get clogged up in this canyon. I lead with Beowulf and Finn. Might as well get some good use out of that Paragon band and Brave Lance we just got. I didn't want to waste too much time visiting all those villages in the forest, so I left them behind once they were safe. But I warped Dew to Anthony so he can make his way towards them. He can pass the money he gets to anyone else later if they really need it. I send Lewin out and he starts fighting the Celestia and Pegasus Knights. We kill all of them except for Aaron, which is incredibly counterproductive story-wise, but also incredibly funny. Look, whatever, I'll take the XP, okay? I can't even, like, pretend to headcanon something out of this one. Like, imagine Survivor's guilt of, like, being the only surviving member of your squadron whose entire goal was to rescue your prince, and then he kills all of you because you tried to kill him first? Like, what the fuck? Yeah, anyways, obviously Lewin and Aaron can talk here. She recognizes him, but wonders what the hell he's doing. Yeah, it's explaining time, Bard boy. Well, he's certainly not being imprisoned, like Chagall said. He teases her for being too trusting. But I mean, come on, look at the guy. And then jokes that the world would chew her up and spit her out like that whore Sylvia. God, what a total douchebag. Why do I love you again? But yeah, so Lewin is the Prince of Celeste, and bears the major holy blood of the Wind Crusader Forseti. But he wants nothing to do with the throne. Apparently after the death of his father, there's been a power struggle in Celeste, over whether Lewin or one of his uncles has the right to rule. Instead of possibly inciting a civil war, Lewin just decided to leave. He didn't want the people to have to suffer over some petty power struggle, so he figured he'd just let someone else who actually wanted the throne take it. But maybe he's just running away from his real responsibility. It certainly explains why the civil war in Agustria strikes a nerve with him so much. But one way or another, one thing is clear. Lewin really does care about the people, while his uncles really probably don't. He really should be the one to rule, and deep down I think he knows it. So he agrees to return. At least, once he's done helping Sigurd and his army of babes. Well, with that out of the way, we have a little more downtime for prep before we head to the capital. Of course, we have Erin recruited now too. She's a Pegasus Knight, so she has the highest movement of anyone in our army now, and can ignore terrain, which is going to be pretty useful. Her growth rates are notoriously low, but she comes with Pursuit and some pretty good base stats, so I can't really complain. Do watch out for bows and ballista though, like, for real this time. Flying units take critical damage from them, and she's not particularly sturdy. And of course, we can throw her and Beowulf into the arena now. Sigurd and Silvio can have an introductory conversation here, where he just gets sexually harassed like a Chad. Nothing really comes out of this one, it's just kind of funny. We can have Ideen warp some of our units out of the way too, and... oh hey, she's level 20, eh? Well, this is what we have that return staff for. And with that, Ideen classes up into a High Priest. She can now use some basic magic. She doesn't have any skills, but still, her high magic stat will do a lot for her. Azel has a spare tome, so I sell it to Ideen. Just like, as like friends, you know? I mean, nothing weird or anything, you know? I mean, unless you want it to be weird, I mean, you know. Of course, having a weapon means that she can now make money at the arena. That's the real draw. Alec and Sylvia can also talk. They basically just flirt around. I mean, they're both the laid-back type. Maybe she just thinks Alec is like a second-rate backup Lewin in case that gig falls through. No, but seriously, why do they look so similar? They're both, like, flirts with messy green hair and head wraps. And, like, if you're thinking this is like a thing, it's not. It's just weird. They, like, designed the same character twice and put one on a horse. Has Matt Pat done a game theory on this? While this conversation does net them 100 love points with each other, I actually don't want Sylvia paired at all in this playthrough, so, Those villages I sent due to will dump a lot of info on us. First off, the southmost one will give us an Armor Slayer, a sword that will do critical damage on any armored unit. Cool. The Augustrian people all seem pretty unsatisfied with the state of the country after Imka's death. And I mean, obviously, Chagall has not been keeping a tight enough leash on his goons. It seems like the general consensus is that people want Eldigan to rule instead, as the true heir to Hazul. And plus he's so handsome. I guess this actually explains a lot of why Chagall resents him so much. Though there's also some weird gossip going around that Eldigan and Lachesis like each other as, more than just siblings. Hey, don't be weird, lady. That's slander. That's my boy over there. It's not that kind of dating sim, yeesh. Lastly, there's apparently a yearly witch hunt for descendants of Loftyr, where people are burned at the stake. Jesus. I know the Loftyr cult left a terrible scar on Yggdrasil, but we seem to have picked up on some of their bad habits here. I mean, imagine if they knew about Deirdre. Maybe that's why she wants to stay near Sigurd, huh? Anyways, I'd say it's about time we stop messing around and charge Mackenly. Watch out for Clement's sleep staff. It's one of the most obnoxious ailments in the game. It only works on units that have lower magic resistance than Clement's magic stat, but it has 10 range and can't miss. It lasts for 5 whole turns, and it'll keep the unit from moving or counterattacking. It's really the worst. Lex and Sigurd both get hit with it. That's definitely gonna put things behind. You know, I'm looking back at my footage now. Could I have just used silence on this guy? Huh. Luckily though, Finn manages to kill Clement pretty easily with his Brave Lance. Sigurd needs 3 more turns to wake up and seize Mackenly, but let's call it a victory net for now. We've got some time to catch up our units and visit some towns. As soon as our little prince awakens, Mackenly is seized. But of course, it's not over yet. Who knows what Chagall's planning out there? Well, what else can the guy do? He sends out his last line of defense. He blames Manfroy for encouraging this futile fight, but also begs him for more advice. God, what a loser. But hey, Manfroy, the expert manipulator, actually has a great solution. Eldigan. Sigurd wouldn't fight against him, so he's the key to keeping Chagall alive. He skitters off to release him like a roach, and then Manfroy and his goons discuss schemes. I'm gonna be honest, I actually really don't like how early Manfroy shows his hand here. I mean, for what it's worth, he's not announcing it to the world, just to us, the players. But I don't think this is the place we should be learning about this information. I mean, we learned about how by Lang, how is being blackmailed with this and how they're trying to get together. I'm talking some sibling dick on pussy action here. It's a lot, man. So I'll talk about it later, when it's more relevant. Erin and Sigurd can talk now. Pretty basic stuff. She just wants to join us to watch over Lewin. And she casually reveals his royal station. Sigurd's just like, oh, so that's why he's like that. I thought he was just an asshole. Lex needs his brave axe repaired, so I check his augury too while I'm at it. He and Ira have been standing next to each other a lot. It says he's well and truly in love with Ira. And yeah, same dude. Though they aren't quite married yet, and that's a good thing. We don't actually want them to be quite yet. The enemy commander Zane has the Night Killer. Which will deal critical damage to our cavalry. Dangerous stuff. Luckily this battlefield is a complete clusterfuck, so he has to settle for his javelin. He will drop the dang thing, so let's have Erin kill him. A flying unit with pursuit that can just drop in on any cav and knock him out sounds pretty good to me. We just gotta clear out the rest of these knights and get to Augustia. Damn though, that Paragon band's doing work. Beowulf just joined us and he's already almost level 20. Well, let's bum rush these ballista and take down Chagall. He has a physics staff which allows him to heal units from afar. He will drop it when defeated, so I have Ideen beat him to add it to her staff collection.
This will make a fine addition to my collection.
He begs for mercy, but fuck that. This guy's made our lives hell. I say off with his head. Oh. He was taken off of the battlefield? Oh, of course, it was Eldigan. I got a little caught up in my bloodlust there. Sorry, buddy. Even after he's been thrown in prison by the guy for being his only voice of reason, he still can't deny his own loyalty. Sigurd is just relieved to see Eldigan doing okay, but he's not quite as happy to see us. In the small amount of time that he's been imprisoned, Granvale's already begun taking Augustria. Its castles are seized by the officers, our soldiers swarm the capital. Gotta say, it's not a great look. Eldigan demands answers from Sigurd. These are not happy himbo hours anymore, everyone. Our boy is mad. Sigurd makes his excuses and apologies and promises to return the country when the turmoil's ended. He gives Eldigan his word, and we have 1 year to make good on this promise. Eldigan and Chagall relocate northwest to Silvale and Medino, and he swears to take Sigurd down if he provokes them. Damn. It's hard to see a friendship go down like this. They both have the best of intentions, but life has led them to differing loyalties. But we still have a year to patch things up and salvage this friendship. But for now, Agustria and Granvale have a fragile peace. And hey, Deirdre had nothing to worry about. She lagged behind Sigurd this whole chapter, and we're still fine. Well, it's been 6 months now since our fight in Agustria ended, which means we're halfway through our time limit for letting the country go free. King Chagall may have left our last battle alive, but Granvale still looms menacingly over the land. Sigurd continues to negotiate Augustria's return, but the powers that be in Valhalla refuse to loosen their grip. In fact, they've basically made themselves at home here, further burdening the Augustrian people. Of course, Chagall can't have someone else abusing his people. That's his job. So go figure, he's assembling an army to take us down. Looks like we're in for a round 2. But where will Sigurd's loyalties lie? With the friend that he's promised freedom to, or the country he serves? Chagall prepares his army of mercenaries, led by this hick Jacobin and his Thundersword. Eldigan is conflicted. Chagall's being a moron, as usual, but Granvale aren't exactly being angels about their occupation either. But either way, he can't really bring himself to fight his friend Sigurd. He'll stay off the battlefield for now, paralyzed by indecision. And of course, up north in Orga Hill, the local pirates see this as an opportunity to raid, as the goons of this game are wont to do. But actually, it looks like the girl boss leader of these Orga Hill pirates ain't having any of it. They're more of a Robin Hood kind of band. They still scheme behind her back, though. She's the adopted daughter of the old leader of this pirate gang, and... you know what? She looks kind of familiar. Didn't we hear about someone having a sibling lost to pirates a while back? Well, looks like another action-packed chapter either way. Deirdre's worried for us again, but she and Sigurd must have gotten busy between chapters, cause, they have a son now. Selif. But that of course means that she can't come along this time. She has to stay with her newborn child, but Sigurd leaves Prince Chenan to watch over her. Maybe he can do a funny little dance, keep her safe. Maybe, I don't know. He promises to return home safely to her though. I mean, we've trounced Agustria once before, and we'll do it again. Oh yeah, and since all of our dumb little green cross knights survived last chapter, Lachesis gets a knight ring. See, when a mounted unit attacks, they have an ability called Canto, which allows them to move afterwards with whatever movement they didn't use. The knight ring basically allows unmounted units to do the same thing. It's nothing particularly crazy right now. It's definitely a skill more made for units with movement to spare in the first place, but there'll be some great uses for it down the line, you'll see. Anyways, you know the drill. Repair your weapons, grind out the arena. Beowulf was level 19, so he hits level 20 here. Beautiful. Ethlin also got to level 21 last chapter, so they can both class up now. Beowulf becomes a forest knight, and Ethlin becomes a paladin. This gives Beowulf a huge speed and skill boost, and Ethlin a huge strength and defense boost. You love to see it. This class up bumps Beowulf up to an A rank in swords too, meaning he can now buy a new silver sword from the armory. Nice. His lack of a good weapon was admittedly holding him back somewhat. Checking out his augury too in the meantime. It says Lachesis has taken his fancy lately, meaning he's somewhere between 200 and 300 love points with her. Cool. Duax is Idine's little pay pig again, this time so she can buy the sleep staff from Finn. The collection expands. I want to try and spend some time this chapter getting Lachesis up to speed. Last chapter she got some decent levels, healing up people attempting the arena, but with level ups like these, she is still gonna need some help. I bitched a lot about her situation last chapter, but I made a real wise guy move here, and I bought her the Armor Slayer from Dew. I figure it'll help her take down some big targets this chapter, and maybe get some good EXP. Anyways, let's get this chapter started proper. My dumb boy and my bad bitch, Lex and Ira have a conversation here. Of course, Lex has a gift for her, but she isn't really interested in whatever petty trinkets he's peddling. But, being a warrior at heart, she changes her tune when she sees what it is. A brave sword. Lex basically got a free trial with a brave weapon from that wet tart in Chapter 1. So when he saw a brave sword in the store, he knew he had to grant it to someone who could make great use of it. It's adorable. It's like a diamond ring for girls who love killing people. Well, what can I say? He knows the way to a girl boss's heart. This conversation will also give the pair 100 love points. You don't want to pair some units too early, or you miss out on conversations like these. And, by extension, items. Any conversation that gives love growths is unavailable once someone involved in it has already fallen in love. Which is, you know, fair enough. But hey, this tips Ira over the edge. Ira and Lex are now officially married.
Then let's get married.
What a fucking Chad. The first guy in our army to class up, and the first one to get married. To the raddest girl in the game, no less. Oh, and you can do this conversation with Holland too instead of Lex, if you're into that. But in my opinion, it's kind of just less charming. I mean, Holland's a great unit, don't get me wrong, but I'd be lying if I said I had much to say about him as a character. But now it's time for the fight to begin. The first stage of this chapter is just an all-out battle. You'll be approached from every angle. The wider layout of this map is actually pretty nice though. It gives all your units a chance to shine for once. You'll be dealing with Armor Knights and Cavs from the north, Armor Knights from the east, Mages to the northeast, and Lance Knights to the west. Talking about music again, this chapter's theme, Eldigan the Lionheart, is another one of my favorites. There's a great, somber grace to it. It maintains some of that Ren Fair cheesiness, but it's more dramatic and dire sounding. I think it highlights the moral struggles behind this chapter really well, and definitely starts setting the higher stakes of the story going forward. I start things off here by sending Lachesis to the east with her Armor Slayer. I figured it'd be a good idea, so I sent her there with Holland to back her up, but yeah, maybe not actually all that great. She's not quite sturdy enough for the job. I probably should have noticed sooner that they all have lances. She does manage to get a couple kills, but for the most part, she has to fall back and let Holland handle it. Thankfully, the Night Ring actually kind of comes in clutch for her retreat. Plus the physics staff that Eldigan got last chapter will help her heal lachesis from afar without having to stay glued to her. Sylvia can let Holland fight again so he doesn't get overwhelmed on enemy phase, and lachesis can heal him and use her remaining movement to stay out of range. Nice. Even with my admittedly poor planning, the army's finally starting to run like a well-oiled machine. While I would like to keep Beowulf and lachesis next to each other as much as I can, I actually don't want to waste too much movement. The Orga Hill pirates are raiding the northern villages, so I send Beowulf over there to take care of them. Sigurd and Finn can start luring out the knights and calves up north too. Finn's starting to approach level 20, which is, pretty great. Light magic has a weapon advantage over all non-dark magic types, making Ethelyn a superb mage killer, so we send her up northwest. Almost every mage throws themselves against her and dies immediately. Looks like that pursuit ring on her was the right move. Holland takes a bit of a beating from these armor knights, but we mostly manage to finish them off. Maybe sending 3 sword users to deal with an army of lance knights wasn't the best idea, but hey, it's been working out. With Sylvia's help, lachesis manages to get a couple more kills too. Those lance knights from the west start getting dangerously close to Agustria, but that's nothing our newly upgraded Lex can't handle. God, look at him go. It's a total slaughter. Our little baby boy has come so far. He and his wife have to take different routes on this one, but trust me, she's girl bossing it up out there too with her new brave sword. You know, in reality, the brave sword on Ira is incredibly redundant. Even more so than the killer bow on Jamka. She's still landing Astra, and only needs like 4 of the 5 hits to take down an armor knight, which is what she would have gotten anyways with the brave sword. But with the 2 in tandem, she can hit up to 12 times in a single round. No one's gonna survive more than a few of those hits anyway, but it still feels cool to say out loud. You know me though, I can't just sell it to someone else. It's the thing that got one of my favorite pairs together. No, but honestly, there are so many sword users in our army that would want this more than her. Look, if you want to sell it, do it. I'm just not gonna, personally. We're making our way towards Medino, taking on any pirates we see along the way. Erin's movement will get her to this village in the northwest, where we're warned about the Thracian Draco Knights. They're mercenaries who ride on wyverns and are known for their brutality, and, go figure, Chagall's got him on his payroll, so we'll have that to look forward to. Finn gets a strength potion from this nice old village lady. Put a little meat on those bones, young man, you're so skinny! Nice. It's a +3 boost, so with the Brave Lance, that's functionally an extra 12 damage per battle. Beowulf visits this far-off east village and gets the Restore Staff, which can heal silence and sleep. Probably would have been more useful last chapter, but I certainly won't turn it down for the future. This village Quan visits is home to a Cross-Knight fangirl. Her boyfriend is actually one of them. Wow, I'm happy for you. Lastly, this village northeast of Medino gives Dew a Wingslayer, a sword that does critical damage to flying enemies. Jacobin really does turn out to be a lousy sellsword, because he goes down pretty easy. I brought Erin here to kill him so she can take his bolt sword. With that, we can take Medino, but it looks like Chagall's already ran off to Silvale where Eldigan is. Hopefully we'll be able to renegotiate peace with him now. Before that though, Father Claude of Edda comes to visit, bearing some unfortunate news. Prince Kurth is dead. Assassinated on his way back from Izok. Our father Byron was with him the whole time, but he's since disappeared, making him the biggest suspect for the heinous deed. King Asmer has fallen ill over this news, and rumors of Sigurd's involvement are spreading only further. The rumor is absurd though. Byron and Sigurd have the least to gain by killing Kurth, so you know it has to be Langbolt and Reptor. But with Kurth dead and Byron missing, they hold the most sway over the royal court now. Our last hope here might be Duke Arvis, but who knows where he stands on this. Sigurd desperately wants to find the truth, but he still has his orders to keep control over Augustria. Even with all this, the man still can't help but stay loyal. Honestly, it's genuinely frustrating and gut-wrenching to watch him get his name dragged through the mud like this. Claude's plan is to travel north to the Tower of Bragi, to, see if God can settle this debate for him. Here to remind him he's got a job to do is my favorite ADD girl, Tailtoo here. She's the daughter of Duke Reptor, so you gotta wonder what she's doing helping us out. But she's a bit of a free spirit, so don't question it too much. She's here as Claude's bodyguard. Can't have a good, handsome Christian boy dying under her watch, and besides that, she just doesn't seem to care for her father's scheming. Good to know, I guess. Either way, they head north for now. Well, that was a fucking downer. But hey, here's our beautiful wife. She wants to come see us at Medino, despite Sigurd urging her to stay at Augusti. I get it, long-distance relationships are hard. But she can't leave Self alone or take him with her, so she leaves him with Shannon. Which gives us this amazing line. I'm just a kid. I can't look after an entire baby myself. Can you handle half a baby then? But seeing how worried she is for Sigurd, he reluctantly agrees. She gives Self a little goodbye kissy on the forehead, I hope, and heads north to meet us. Well, it's fine, it's just a pleasant stroll through a bloody battlefield and... Oh no. Please no. Why Manfroy? Why now? The slate of your life shall be cleansed? Awaiting your true husband? God damn it, no, please don't do this, I beg of you. Fuck. What are we supposed to do? Things just keep getting worse. We don't even get a chance to comprehend the situation and let alone handle it, and Sigurd doesn't even know yet. How could he? I mean, his whole family just got accused of regicide and conspiracy against the crown, and now he has to enter new negotiations with Augustria. He's not even thinking about returning home yet. And what the fuck were you doing, Holland? Chagall's at Silvale, ripping into Eldigan for not fighting when Medina was being attacked, calling him a traitor. Eldigan is just like Sigurd. He's still shackled by his loyalty and is not in the mood to argue. So he and the Cross Knights deploy. He gives a grim speech. This may be the last time the mighty Cross Knights deploy. Of course, they head straight towards us. We have to handle it. There's no other choice. Even if Sigurd had an inkling of something happening and wanted to go back and check on Deirdre, he would have no choice but to fight here, and at least try to convince Eldigan to stay his hand. So here's Eldigan, with Mistletoe and his 14 Cross Knights, all armed with javelins. We'll have to take this one carefully. Eldigan himself is pretty brutal. He can take down any unit in one shot that enter his range, without a chance to fight back. We can't handle him and all the Cross Knights at once, so I send in Ethlyn with her light brand, and right next to her, her husband, Quan, with his javelin. This will give them both ranged weapons, and a critical hit rate and a void boost. They stay in range of the Cross Knights, but just out of range of Eldigan. We need to get lachesis in there too. Maybe Sigurd can make Eldigan see reason, but if not, she's gonna be our last hope. Well, Jesus. This Ethlyn plan worked shockingly well. Yep. Well, there's one Cross Knight and Eldigan left. Sorry to that one village lady, your boyfriend's probably dead. This is kind of fucked up, but it really feels like Quan just went to that village and like listened to that girl brag about how cool her Cross Knight boyfriend was. And it was just like, yeah, well, my wife is cooler. And then this happens. Moving Sigurd into Eldigan's range will immediately trigger a conversation. Sigurd begs him to lay down his sword. He's still trying his damnedest to return Agustria to Chagall. Maybe Sigurd is too naive to realize the emptiness of his own promise. Considering his orders still haven't changed, and his name is already being sullied by devious rumors, there's frankly no way that Agustria is escaping Granvale's relentless imperial grip now. But Eldigan understands this fact better than anyone else. The time for excuses is over. The time to fight is now. Damn, it really is down to lachesis now, isn't it? While we try to move her in close, Ira has a close call, but she has no heal, so he can't critical her at least. Lachesis reaches Eldigan, so we finally get to recruit him now. Right? I mean, you can't be fighting against your best friend and your sister. Well, that's not their solution. They want to try something a little more diplomatic and try again with Chagall. He decides to risk his own life one more time to try and convince Chagall to lay down his arms, but before he does, he gives Lachesis the Earth Sword. He returns to Silvale, but is met only with Chagall's ire, to no one's surprise. But for this final act of disobedience, it's off with his head. Eldigan is executed on the spot, and Lachesis is the last word on his lips. I mean, he's got to come back somehow, right? I mean, this chapter's named after him and everything. It's just such an awful way to go out. Of course not, though. It's one tragedy after the next in this chapter. I want to take a moment to really talk about Eldigan, and by extension, the lachesis here, because they're very hotly debated characters. Oh yeah, and I commissioned the art for this episode's thumbnail and the next segment from the amazing artist IKTK. Check them out. They're currently trying to escape Florida, and can we put up an image of Florida up on screen right now? Yeah, thanks. I guess the most obvious question is, why doesn't Eldigan just join us here? It's a question that every player will have to answer for themselves as they play. The conclusion a lot of people draw is that it's because Eldigan's really stupid. But as much as I like to joke, I think that's kind of reductive. We have seen throughout their journey in Agustria that there are people who want him to rule. Back during the founding of Augustria, the Crusader Hizul had a son and a daughter. The male heir to the throne was born with minor Hizul holy blood, while the daughter was born with major Hizul holy blood. This led to a split, resulting in the main Augustrian royal family bearing minor holy blood, while House Nordian carried major holy blood. Despite this, House Nordian and their descendants all swore to protect the royal family. Eldigan was born into his role, and that role was a knight, not a king. He's been groomed for this for his whole life. And even if Chagall is a monster, his father was someone that Eldigan believed in with all of his heart, and that's not something that just goes away. Despite the fact that Chagall murdered Imka himself, he still probably wanted what was best for his son. This internal conflict resonated strongly enough with me that I ended up writing a whole character revolving around my own take on the idea. And he has haunted my brain every day since I created him. That's right. No Eldigan means no Urikenbre. Shout out to the one other person on Earth who cares about Urikenbre. That said, there's another interesting perspective. Whether we like it or not, there are romantic implications between Eldigan and lachesis. Luckily, we got a version where if it's there, it's relatively subtle, but apparently in prototypes it went as far as the two having a son together, which is... yikes. I'm gonna be honest, when I first played it, I didn't read Eldigan and lachesis being romantic at all. I figured lachesis just kinda admired him, like, a lot, but nothing too weird. I figured he was more interested in exploring Sigurd and Quan's bodies than his sister's, you know? But if you really look into things, it's there. I didn't want to bring up the manga too much to avoid turning this into like a manga review or comparison, but it's an interesting point of reference at least as an officially licensed interpretation of the game. It loves to take every opportunity it can to dig the knife deeper. For example, Chagall sends Eldigan's head to us like the killer in that movie 7.
What's in the box? What's in the fucking box?
The incestual feelings in the manga are not just subtextual or implied here. They're straight up in the limelight. It's not an interpretation I prefer. I think it makes these characters feel weaker and weirder. But it's actually not bad. It's interesting. It gives them added feelings of guilt and shame, and maybe even some more depth. And it manages to make the situation even more tragic and uncomfortable somehow. Lachesis has to spend the rest of her time in the manga grieving and becoming strong enough to not have to rely on her love for Eldigan, which also leads to one of the cheesiest ships, and one of my favorites, Lachesis and Finn. They literally get no lines of dialogue in the game, but somehow they make that shit work, man. But at least in the context of the game, we can mostly pretend the Lachesis Eldigan thing was mostly just a rumor some gossiping housewives started, and I prefer to keep it that way. But one way or another, Eldigan and Lachesis are very important to each other. I mean, his last words were his sister's name, not his son's or his wife's. Which he does have, by the way. It's an interesting spin for sure that Eldigan would deny his worthiness to rule because of it, but still, just deciding to choose regicide is not as easy as I think some people make it out to be. I don't think he needs to have dirty thoughts about his half-sister to have a compelling internal conflict. I mean, really, what choice were these guys given? What good guys were there to side with? Eldigan can't just betray his country for an empire that's abusing its power and expanding at a frankly terrifying rate. And Sigurd doesn't have any concrete reason to betray Granvale now either. It would mean betraying not only his king, who's almost certainly a better man than Chagall, but also acting against Granvale now would only hurt his father's reputation even further, if he's even still alive. Too much has happened to him at once. Too much is up in the air. Maybe with more time to think and prepare, they could join forces and face all the evils of the world together, but the reality we were given was not so kind. Point is, I think Eldigan is a fantastic character. A bit of an idiot, yeah, but the good men in this game usually are. His death really sets the stage for how this game is going to be going forward. And I think in general, Eldigan just encapsulates a lot of what's good about this game. He's gone now, but the heart of the lion lives on, in lachesis. Her newly acquired Earth Sword functions a lot like the Light Brand, but it casts the light spell Nosferatu instead, which drains enemy HP to heal its user. It has less uses and is more expensive to repair, but it's an excellent tool to have around. You've really fucked up, Chagall. You executed the one man who could keep us from ripping into you like a pack of feral dogs. He has one more group of shady sellswords as command, the Thracian Draco Knights. But you'll be dead before they can even get close enough to hear your screams, rest assured. We won't need everyone for this fight, so move whichever half of your army is lagging behind back towards Medino. This village north of Silvale will give one defense to whoever visits it, so Finn will get this one too. A lot of our army deserved comeuppance against Chagall. Sigurd just had to watch the people suffer under his foot, and he brought him to war with his best friend. Beowulf couldn't even be paid to fight under the guy. And lachesis. He's tried to take everything from her over the course of the last 2 chapters, and destroy everything that she and Eldigan stood for. But now, I'd say it's time for her to do the taking. When I was planning this playthrough, I wanted Lex to get the powerful silver blade that Chagall drops. It's now forever lost to him, but honestly, while playing through this chapter, I couldn't bring myself to let anyone but lachesis kill Chagall. It has to be this way. But that's it. Chagall's dead now. No one's left to rescue him this time. The Thracian mercenaries arrived too late, but still stay to try and do what they were paid for. Paplon will drop a renewal band, which will restore some HP at the beginning of a return for whoever holds it. But once he's dead, their leader Trevant decides there's no point staying on this burning boat, and leaves back to Thracia. Before we capture Silvale, it's not a bad idea to move most of your army up to the tip of this peninsula. Things can get a bit messy later if you don't have some units ready. But with that, this farce is finally over. Sigurd finally has a moment to process his grief over Eldigan, but Oyfe urges him not to lose heart. I mean, come on, man. You haven't even heard about what happened to your wife yet. Oh, hey, look! Here comes Shannon to do a funny little dance and cheer you up, man. This moment had to come. Shannon apologizes relentlessly, tears streaming down his face. He couldn't do anything to protect Deirdre. I mean, thank God he managed to keep Seliph safe, but it's a guilt this child will have to bear for the rest of his life. Sigurd doesn't blame Shannon, though. He's too kind. He could lash out at him in panic and scream, but he's just a child. What could he have done? I've thought about it a lot, and I think Sigurd might just be my favorite Fire Emblem character. We've joked almost non-stop about how powerful and unbalanced he is as a unit, but Sigurd isn't overpowered on accident, and he's not a perfectly lovable Gary Stew of a hunk for nothing. Every lord usually needs a stronger, older, more experienced person around to round him out and advise him, but Sigurd's the exception. There is no one truly qualified to do that for him. He is the dad of the team. I mean, Oyfe is your main advisor filling that role, and he's literally a child. Sigurd has been struck by tragedy after tragedy, especially in this chapter. He may be brash and naive, but he knows he has to stay strong for everyone who relies on him. He has so much trauma and grief to deal with now, and he's lost the only person he could have confided in, Deirdre. He demonstrates amazing strength of character here, and honestly, embodies everything that I think makes an ideal man. Well, the war with Agustria is officially over, but clearly the chapter's not done yet. We can't speak of justice and the sorrow of the common man and all that jazz, and not take care of the pirates that have been harassing the innocents all chapter. Of course, as the pirate leader Bridget points out, we wouldn't even be after them if these goons hadn't decided to start raiding against your orders in the first place. It's a mutiny. 1 sniper against 30 pirates. Yep, that's a certified FE4 moment right there. Luckily, like with Lewin and Sylvia, we won't have to worry about recruiting Bridget. She comes immediately as that beautiful selectable blue, and not the idiotic AI green. She's plenty capable, but I don't care how good you are. A single archer against all these close-range enemies is a recipe for disaster. So we've got to haul some major ass to help her out. Also, the Orga Help Pirates enemy theme, total banger. Northwest lies the Tower of Bragi. I almost forgot Claude and Tail 2 went there, considering everything that's happened. Claude is relieved. He received the revelation from the Crusader Bragi, and learns the nature of the conspiracy in Grand Vale. But Tail 2 is very understandably more concerned with the pirates swarming the place. In the tower, Claude found the holy staff of his house Edda, Valkyria. It's a staff that has the power to bring the dead back to life, though Tail 2 just calls it a grubby little cane, which is really funny. Now, you might be thinking, wow, that's really impressive. Can we use this baby to bring back Eldigan? Lore-wise, this seems pretty fucking absurd. Claude is about to provide an explanation into the intricacies of its function, but as a convenient hand wave, Tail 2's ADD kicks in, and she decides that she doesn't actually care that much, which is really funny, actually. I love this girl. So, anyways, we actually can't use it to bring back Eldigan because, gameplay-wise, it only works on blue units. Yeah, it sucks. Sorry, but whatever, don't worry about it. I suppose it's a useful function to have, and previous games had the Alm staff filling the same function. Again, though, if you're going for a ranked run, you don't really want people dying anyways, so you won't be seeing me use this one. But, actually, you can apparently use this thing up to 3 times without affecting your rank. So maybe I could have used it at some point. I don't know. I just don't trust it, I guess. Claude is a high priest, obviously with major Bragi holy blood. He must have just classed up, though, because he's level 20, and seems to have missed the memo that he can actually use tomes now. However, he does have the incredibly powerful Fortify staff, which heals all units in a 10-space radius. Nice. No skills on this guy, though. Tail 2 is a level 3 Thunder Mage. I'm gonna be honest with you here. She's bad, but I also think she's really fun. Her only skill is Wrath, and while Pursuit would be very useful, Wrath is still a pretty powerful and unique skill. If her HP is under half, she will always critical. Pretty damn useful. They must have thought this setup was a real fucking funny prank though, because it's just these 2 units here surrounded by pirates. The level 21 can't fight, but the level 3 one can. He can heal her if she takes too much heat, but not only does it use up a valuable charge on an expensive staff that could potentially heal your whole army at once, just to heal a single unit, but that unit also has an ability that makes her stronger at low health. If this was supposed to be funny, bravo, it worked, I'm laughing. Sigurd, Quan, Ethlin, lachesis, and Beowulf still need to catch up with the gang, but Quan and Ethlin can have a talk now. Quan's father entrusted Ethlin with their family spear of the Crusader Nova, Gaybolg. He wanted her to give it to him only in the event that he really needed it. Gaybolg is a weapon with a tragic history, and is thought to have cursed Leonster and Thracia with their bad blood. Now, Honey Muffin, if you were gonna shackle Quan with the curse of Gaybolg anyways, why exactly did you wait until we were dealing with the petty pillagers and not, you know, the entire Augustrian military? But it seems like the loss of Deirdre really shook her. Her heart's full of worry thinking about how Sigurd and her may never see each other again. But Quan assures her that, at least, they will always stay together. Well, it's Gaybolg. This is gonna be our first time getting to handle a holy weapon ourselves. Well, unless you count Valkyria as a weapon for some reason. I don't. It gives 10 strength, 10 skill, and 10 defense. It basically just highlights Quan's innate strengths. He can really deal a lot of damage now, even if he can't double reliably. Pretty neato. Getting back to our pirate problem, this big guy here, Pizarre, keep an eye out for him. He's gonna drop one of the most valuable items in the game, the leg ring. I'll just throw Ira in there. They're just some pirates with hand axes, so she's not gonna have any problems. Bridget will end up getting surrounded pretty easily no matter what, so it's not a bad idea to tuck her into this village here. It'll raise her evasion. The villagers want nothing to do with us, though. Whether it's Bridget or Sigurd, to them, they just see more bloodshed and warmongering. I sent in Erin too to help her out, but honestly, this is not a great situation. Bridget takes a beating and Erin is in range of multiple bow users. Ira takes down Pizarre and gets that leg ring. The leg ring is a real neat item. It raises the movement of its owner by 3. If you're trying to be optimal, you should probably just give it to Sigurd or maybe Sylvia. But if you're not boring, you can use it to make your favorite infantry unit more usable. So yeah, of course this shit's going on Ira. Baby. Either way, these pirates boast big numbers, but they're just goons. Nothing compared to what we've been up against. They should go down pretty easy. Quan gets to use Gay Bulg for the first time. On a pirate of 3 HP. Yeah, this was really not the time to whip this one out, huh? I sent Ethlyn back to town real quick too to repair her sword. That Lightbrand really killed a lot of people today. She's running a bit low on money, so I sell her heal and return staff for reasons. Bridget and Erin make some clutch dodges thanks to their terrain bonuses, and survive long enough for Ideen to be able to reach them with their physics staff. And then with the help of Ira, they break free of their pirate prison. When Ideen finally catches up, she recognizes the pirate she just saved. It's her long-lost twin sister, the one that she's been searching for. She went missing when she was only 5, so her memories are still hazy. She's skeptical that they're actually sisters, and needs proof. Personally, I'd say the matching perms are all the proof I need, but Ideen excitedly hands her Eugenics, and Bridget feels its power course through her, confirming her heritage and refreshing her memory. It's a lot to take in, but she is happy to remember her family. Her sister Ideen, their father Ring, and their brother Andre. It's a heartwarming family reunion in the middle of this sea of tragedy we've been drowning in lately. Bridget is awesome. She's a total rough and tumble girl boss with a heart of gold. I love her. At first she just seems like a decent sniper, but pretty unremarkable compared to Jamka. She has major Allure Holy Blood, but her only skill is Pursuit. Which, I mean, if you're only gonna have one skill, it's a good one to have. But it's attached to her class, so it's nothing particularly special to her. However, with Eugenics in hand, it's all she needs. She'll be a total killing machine. I really don't think there's an enemy she can face that won't die to this thing. Though, she has the same problem as Jamka, lower movement and can only attack from afar. Comes with the territory. But with that, Bridget's actually the last parable unit we'll be recruiting. This means I can finally explain some things and lay out my plans. In other words, let's talk about eugenics. Okay, but being serious for a second, if there's a thesis statement about this game, it's this. The first playthrough is not fun. It's honestly a train wreck. An irreplaceable experience, but definitely not great. It's actively kind of bad and obtuse when you don't know what you're doing. There are no tutorials, which is great on repeat plays, but confusing as all hell when you're starting. Half your units will definitely be shit, especially if you aren't using the arena. Which, by the way, isn't even available in the prologue, and no one ever mentions it in dialogue, which is pretty weird considering how important it is to the EXP and money economy of this game. But once you're familiar with the mechanics and characters, you're planning every step of the way. It starts to develop a more similar appeal to time micromanagement games like Modern Persona or Pikmin or Disco Elysium, which makes it feel very distinct from other Fire Emblem games. It's something I really appreciate. This is not a short game though. I don't want to be the guy that tells you, hey, you should play my favorite game, Genealogy of the Holy War. Just bear with it for the first 50-hour playthrough though, it gets better by the second one. And you know what, I'd love it if FE4 could be a game like Disco Elysium where failure is still fun, but you know what, I'm not smart enough to know how they do that. I don't know if anyone is. So yeah, while I'd love for people to just jump in and experience this game blind for themselves, time has taught me that you really can't expect people to do that. Unless it's just a really damn good game with a solid hook. I started this whole series because it's only good when you know what you're doing. So, I guess I just want to teach everyone how to play and hopefully plant the seed of starting your own game. Which is pretty funny because most of the people watching this already love FE4 and really don't need me lecturing them on any of this shit. But you know what? Fuck it, let's just get back to the topic at hand. Obviously, the way that you pair units in a game called Genealogy of the Holy War will be completely pivotal to your experience. So each girl in our army will have 2 kids if paired, a son and a daughter. Every girl will take after their mother and inherit their items, and every son will inherit their father's items. Except for Bridget and Ethlyn where it's the opposite. However, a child will only receive items from their parents if they can use them. All the rings are on the table, but any weapon that can't be used by a child, whether it's because it's incompatible with their class, or because their weapon rank is too low, will disappear from their inventory. This makes planning very important. You need to keep track of your kids' classes, what items enemies will drop, and what holy blood you're passing down to be truly effective about it. And when it comes to skills, think of every unit as 1/2 of a complete skill set in the first generation. Ever think, man, this unit would be so good if they just had that guy's skills? Well, you're in luck now, because that's almost exactly how this works. The kids will inherit all of their parents' personal skills, if they can use them. I'll go down the line here and try to explain some pairing guidelines for every girl in our army. First off is Ideen. Her daughter is a staff user with a default staff rank of B, so she'll inherit any B rank or lower staves Ideen is carrying. Ideen has no skills to pass down, but as a staff user, she doesn't really need any. Her son is a bow user with an A weapon rank, so he can inherit any bow his father might pass down. That said, the only male bow users are Jamka and Madir, and Jamka won't pass Pursuit due to it being a class skill and not a personal skill, so if you're going for one of these, Madir is probably more consistent. Personally though, I'm pairing her with Claude. He also has no skills, which isn't great, but he'll pass down his Bragi Holy Blood, bumping their daughter's staff rank up to A. This means she'll be able to inherit Ideen's whole arsenal, making her a total support Swiss Army knife. Ira's kids are both sword users with A weapon ranks. Ira's skill set is already insanely strong, so honestly, you can pair her with anyone and they'll probably be fine. Lex is a very good option for her though, because he passes Vantage and Paragon, which are crazy when paired with Ira's skills. His Minor Near Blood will make them pretty tanky too. Lex unfortunately can't pass any swords to the sun, which is why I wanted to pick up that Silver Blade from Chagall. But honestly, it's not even really a deal breaker. But if you really wanted to get sword inheritance, Holland and Noish are fine options. Lachesis' kids will also have A ranks in swords, but her skill set definitely needs some work. If you want someone who will pass down swords and Pursuit to their son, your only real options are Beowulf and Alec. And maybe a Zell if you're feeling funky. Her daughter will also inherit any of Lachesis' C rank staves. I pair her with Beowulf to pass Pursuit, Accost, and a Silver Sword. Sylvia's kids are both support units, a dancer and a healer. Honestly, it doesn't really matter who you pair them with. Claude is probably fine if you don't have anything else to do. Lewin is kind of a bad idea, but not the worst. I actually leave her unpaired in this one for demonstration purposes. She's the only one you can really make an argument for leaving unpaired. Sorry, girly. Aaron's daughter will have a B in swords and lances, and her son will have a B in all magic types. Their classes both have Pursuit by default, so you won't have to worry about it for this one. Lewin is the easiest and probably most logical pairing. I almost always do it, it's basically explicitly canon. But if you choose not to, I don't know. You don't really have to worry about the kids too much, they're basically fine no matter what. Arden's actually kind of funny, I guess. I'm just sticking with Lewin, it's the quintessential choice. He passes critical and adept to the kids, which are good skills to have with Pursuit. And if Lewin's son is a mage, they're basically guaranteed to be amazing. Tailtoo's kids are both mages with B's and Thunder and C's and Fire and Wind. Gameplay-wise, she's actually amazing paired with Lewin. Maybe one of the best choices, honestly. But if you're not doing Lewin, Azel is basically your safest and, honestly, maybe only other bet. He'll pass his Vala Holy Blood, giving them higher magic stats and fire ranks, and Pursuit, which they'll greatly appreciate. Obviously, since Lewin's taken, I'm going with Azel. Lastly is Brigid. Her son will inherit Eufel and Pursuit, so literally don't worry about him, he'll be fine. It's the daughter that's tricky. She's a sword user with a pathetic C rank in swords. She won't inherit any skills from her mother, which means no Pursuit. Basically, either choose someone who can pass Pursuit like Beowulf or Alec or Madir, or do what I do here and pair it with Holland. He'll pass his minor Odo Holy Blood, bumping her sword rank up to B at least, and giving her Luna. Ethlyn you can't pair anyway, but keep in mind her kids won't have Pursuit by default, so giving her the Pursuit ring is actually a really good idea. That is, if you don't have plans to keep it for anyone else. The pairings I chose are pretty standard stuff, but they're all ones I like a lot. feel free to experiment around with your own ideas for unit combos. You can find some pretty fun stuff. Just a few things to keep in mind. Myrmidons and archers have pursuit as a class skill, so Jamka and Holland won't pass them down. If a father can't use a weapon in their inventory but their son can, it will pass down, but you can only get weapons you can't wield in your inventory by killing bosses, not through the pawnbroker, so keep an eye out if this is your plan. Luna and Sol from Holland and Dew respectively can only pass to infantry sword units, so don't expect them to pass to any mounted units or mages. Preferably only pair them with Ira or Bridget if you want to pair them at all. And for the love of God, only pair Lewin with Aaron, Tailtew, or Sylvia if you want to keep access to one of the best tools in the game. You can pair anyone you want, but just keep in mind, just because you can, doesn't mean it'll turn out well. For reference, here were the pairings I chose for my first, mostly blind playthrough. Lex and Ira, no problems, this one's great. Lewin and Aaron, this one's also pretty great. Alec and Sylvia, this one's okay, but they're just support units, they're not doing any heavy lifting. Azel and Ideen, the daughter ends up nothing special, and the son is a physical unit with shit strength, so pretty useless. Jamka and Bridget, like I said, the son is pretty much fine no matter what, but the daughter ends up real shitty in this one. Not having pursuit and being stuck to iron weapons due to her C rank and swords is basically a death sentence. Holland and lachesis, this is an awful pairing. Both kids are mounted so Luna doesn't pass, pursuit's a class skill and doesn't pass. It's just bad. They get nothing. Beowulf and Tailtew. This one is genuinely irredeemable stat-wise, but they at least get pursuit. It's bad. Don't do it. You do not know what unfun feels like until you pair Beowulf and Tailtew and have mage kids with no magic growths, or half an army with no pursuit. But it really does get the gears turning when you know how to plan. Like, do you know how badly I want to make a file one day where I pair Ira and Lewin? Their kids would have Pursuit, Astra, Adept, Nihil, Critical, and an increased magic growth. They'd be unstoppable magic sword users. What a shit idea, though. Sounds kind of fun. I did something similar by pairing Ira and Noish once. Imagine a unit that's like Ira, but with Critical and a cost. Is it necessary? No. Is it crazy as hell, though? Yes, absolutely. Even now, I'm thinking about how it would go if I paired Lex and Tailtew. Their kids would hypothetically be sturdy mages with Wrath and Vantage, so they could always critical and strike first when their HP's under half. It's like one of the most fun skill combos in the series. Plus I'd have Paragon to increase their EXP. It might actually suck in application, but I just want to see it happen, it sounds exciting. And Ideen's kids are a bow user and a staff user. For my last few playthroughs, I've prioritized the staff girl. But a playthrough where I actually use Madir for once and pair him with Ideen to get a good archer son? I've never done it. I want to try it. I tried it with Jamka, but he didn't get pursuit, so it wasn't great, but I saw the potential. It's admittedly been a long, exhausting road getting this explanation out, but it's the crux of player individuality and decision-making in this game, so I feel like it's pretty important. It's a real neat system, but it's a shame it's so obtuse. There definitely could have been a lot of little things that would improve it, but as is, I still really love it. It's the main thing that gets me replaying this game over and over. This is probably the last big tutorial segment I'll have to make though. These game's mechanics are now mostly laid bare. Anyways, now that we know all of our pairings, I'm gonna keep Beowulf and lachesis, Claude and Ideen, Azel and Tailtew, and Bridget and Holland joined at the hip for a while. Don't worry about Lewin and Aaron yet though if you plan on doing it. You'll see down the line. Also, because of funny math reasons, if you hang around for 32 turns with Bridget and Tailtew on the map and Finn alive, he will be married to one of them by the end of this chapter, even if he's never been next to them. I guess it'd be weird to beat Chagall on 18 turns and then hang around on Orga Hill for 32, but it's still goofy. Definitely don't have them next to each other if you don't want them paired. I couldn't find any information about this online, so I did some of my own sleuthing in the game, and despite my running gag with Warp, being in the castle does not actually exclude you from love growths. Just a good thing to keep in mind. Anyways, let's get back to the map. Dew can visit the Tower of Bragi, and he'll get bullied out by Claude's ancestral spirit, but he does come out of it with a wind sword, which, obviously, is a sword that can cast wind magic. Sigurd can talk to Bridget and Claude now that they're on our team. Bridget is certain that she's going to prison for this one, but he's actually just here to recruit her and introduce himself. She calls him a strange little man, which is something I also call Sigurd at least twice a day. Claude reveals his findings to Sigurd. Langbalt and Reptor did indeed kill Kurth and frame our father. No surprise there. But it looks like they also had the King of Izok assassinated, intensifying the war as an excuse to invade. There's also an evil shrouded in darkness. The Lopter cult, no doubt. Last but not least, Byron is still alive out there, but just barely. Can't decide if that's good news or bad. Claude urges Sigurd to not act rashly, but this isn't the first piece of bad news Sigurd's got in this chapter. He ought to be used to it by now. Bridget and Tail2 can clear out the arena now too. Tail2 faces some trouble due to her low level, but she does better than you'd think thanks to Wrath. After some waiting around and prepping, Beowulf and lachesis tie the knot, and Finn hits level 20. Good timing too. You'll want him classed up by the end of this chapter if you can. We send him back home to become a Duke Knight, and he gets a nice boost to all of his stats. It's beautiful. Just look at him, I'm so proud. You can have Bridget kill Duval at Orga Hill, if you want some payback for dragging her adoptive father's good rep through the mud, but he drops a power ring that'll increase strength by 5, so I think lachesis might make better use of it. But with that, our business in Augustria is officially done. I mean, who's even left to resist us now? We gather everyone at Orga Hill to make sure everyone's alive and kicking. But just when the work's all done, a massive army approaches. It's Langbalt and Reptor. That's some bad fucking news. It's official. We've been branded as traitors. Listen, you losers. Sigurd managed to topple 2 countries' governments in a year. In a cave. With a box of scraps. And it took you this long to finish a war with one country and kill your own king? I don't want to hear this traitor shit. Langbalt riles up his men, invoking the name of their king. But those are some rich fucking words coming from the man who killed his own prince, and is here to kill one of his few remaining allies. You're a true irredeemable bastard, Langbalt. Damn it, man. Looks like Arvis's silver tongue played a part in convincing the king. We might truly be out of allies here. And this shit all happens as soon as we're about to search for Deirdre. It's fucking brutal. Claude is already en route to tell the king about his findings, but clearly it's too late. This whole situation is frustrating and downright anxiety-inducing. Sigurd finally breaks down and wonders what it was all for. Just in the nick of time, though, a squadron of Pegasus Knights from Celeste, led by their captain Manya, come to our aid. They offer us safe passage to Celeste from their queen, Rana. What's the meaning behind this sudden act of kindness? Well, what choice are we given here? A golden opportunity has landed right in our lap. We retreat to Celeste and live to fight another day, but what hope really remains for us now? Hopefully we'll find an answer in the next chapter of Fire Emblem, Genealogy of the Holy War. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around again for 2 of these now. I know I said this one was going to be shorter than the last one, but that was a gross underestimation. The good news is, I anticipated a shorter than an hour video to take a few months, and instead, an hour and a half video only took a couple months. And that's good, not bad. This one might be a bit hard for me to look back on a few years from now, because it's a lot of a shaky voiced 26-year-old with clogged sinuses getting way too serious about a 26-year-old RPG. But if I think that this episode was bad with that, oh boy, I'm sure the next one will probably be even worse, considering. But you know what, though? At the moment, I feel pretty good about how this one turned out. Oh yeah, and thanks for all the support and comments on the first video. It did about as well as an average naked anime girl drawing I do on Twitter normally would, which is honestly pretty fucking cool. A lot of mutuals showed up to comment, much appreciated, but there are a few comments that really made my day. This guy here says that the video actually made him want to play FE4, which is beautiful. I love it. That was the whole goal. This guy here pointed out that there's actually a different recruitment conversation with Deirdre if you kill Sandima first for some reason. I wish I knew this beforehand, because I wouldn't necessarily say it makes the relationship good, but it does recontextualize things in a way that I find really important. I'll definitely bring it up in the next video. I'm just glad I'm still learning new things about my favorite game. But my favorite comment might just be from this guy, Finn of Leinster. Like, if he was a newer fan, it'd definitely be like Finn with 2 N's of Leonster. But this is like an old translation, man, a real OG. And he said he thoroughly enjoyed it and is looking forward to more. That means way more to me than it reasonably should. The next episode might be shorter than this one, maybe? But definitely longer than the first. I don't have to explain any more mechanics for a while, for real this time, I think. And looking over my footage for Chapter 4 and 5, I seem to have less stuff recorded. They seem pretty straightforward and shorter gameplay-wise. That said, the next episode is going to be very emotionally complex and plot-driven, so, you know, we'll see. But I hope you all enjoyed this one. I will see you all next time. Bye.